Hey everybody, Thumbspasm here with another week of Thumb on the Pulse. We're going to get started here with news and industry events that are getting our blood pumping. So let's go ahead and just get started. Welcome to Thumb on the Pulse. This is where we talk about the game and industry news that gets our hearts racing. We're going to start with some news that I never thought I would ever talk about. I was requested to report on this week, so we are going to go ahead and talk about Apple versus Epic and the Fortnite saga that is present day. As we are all well aware, Apple has removed Fortnite from its game store. Mainly this is because Fortnite, or Epic rather, the game developer, refuses to pay the standard fee that exists for games and game developers to put their games on these type of mobile platforms. Again, the Apple Store and the Google Store. It's a standard fee. There's nothing really abnormal about it. Every developer pays it. I think there's only one company that's ever gotten a special deal from Apple specifically, but otherwise every game developer pays a 30% fee to have their game hosted on a website. Makes complete sense to me. They've been happily paying it up until recently. However, Epic, in a grab to get more money, masked as an attempt to save their customers money, as opposed to, making their customers pay this fee, they opened a separate store that you could buy things for the game without using the Apple Store. Now, is this necessarily the most underhanded thing any business has ever done? Probably not. Is this, in my opinion, just a nasty grab by a big corporation for more money, where they feel like a different big corporation is taking their money? Yes. I see this completely as a greed thing. In fact, more news as of last Monday, the U.S. District Court Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers actually denied Epic Games' motion to temporarily restore the game on the iOS service. But, in an interesting twist of events, that same judge also ruled that Apple is not allowed to block Epic's Unreal Engine on iPhone makers' ecosystem, basically telling Apple that they're not allowed to block the Unreal Engine from existing in the Apple Store just because it's affiliated or associated or owned by Epic. Another fun piece of news that I uncovered while researching a little bit of this Epic news is that just 2 months ago, it was reported that professional and competitive esports players were pretty upset with Epic. Fortnite players and professional esports players were calling Epic out just 2 months ago, claiming that they still hadn't received their payments for tournaments or other sorts of promotional jobs that they receive from Epic. Also, content creators out there that have made complaints on Epic for missing their SAC payments or their support a creator payments. It's a program that Epic runs. So again, is this just a money grab by Epic? I see it that way. If you guys don't, please feel free to comment below. We are going to move right along into Steam and EA news right now. Steam and EA are going to join forces. Steam will be offering the EA Play opportunities on their service now, as opposed to being exclusively with the Origin store and then the EA website. Now all of this is going to be accessible through Steam, which is going to be super awesome, especially for some of us Apex players out there who are already frustrated with Origin. Not only that, but we're also going to be having the opportunity to get the Steam user interface for all of our EA games now. So that's going to be super exciting. Since we're talking about EA, we're also just going to move right along in that sports vein. Madden 21 comes out very shortly. A lot of the people with EA Access have already begun playing it. In fact, our friend Kankosaurus has been featuring it on his channel a little bit. Got to watch him play. 21 gets to reveal new opportunities just like every new Madden game does. We've got a new arcade mode with new tricks. It's called The Yard. I've got that up right here. The Yard is very similar to an old game that some of you might be familiar with called NFL Street. Very similar in regards to the leniency on some traditional NFL rules. We've got unique game styles. Not only do we have this new feature called The Yard, but we also have abilities to customize avatars, build cards, again, just like in the old MUT modes, new unlocked gear, all sorts of new fun coming with Madden 21. Keep your eye open for that one coming to a store near you. NHL 21 made some announcements this week that are both good and bad. One of which we'll get right out of the way. rip it off like a band-aid. NHL 21 will not be available on PC this year. They've made the decision, as I believe they have in the past, to not have PC be a supported format for playing NHL 21. It'll be only on the consoles. Other news that's been reported with NHL 21, the cover athlete, again, Alexander Ovechkin, he'll be on the cover this year. We're also getting new reports that this year NHL 21 will be implementing an in-game reporting system in order to try to prevent trolling, prevent negative connotations in game, as well as giving the opportunities to report players and teams for creating toxic environments. More additions to the game include skills. Every year we add new skills and moves. This year one of the moves we've added is the famous Michigan move. It's basically a really high skill, high risk, low reward type of maneuver where the skater's behind the net, picks up the puck with his stick, and reaches around to stuff it into the goal. A really complicated move, but it's really impressive when it's pulled off. Other moves include signature moves from Sidney Crosby, like his puck off the net goal maneuver and other signature moves. Those moves will be available for all players in the game to play. I've even been told that they can be connected, so you can make up some really sweet moves. Things to be looking forward to in the future. My favorite bit of news on NHL 21, though, is that the AI intelligence has been improved, trying to make the game feel a little bit more authentic, both when you're playing against the AI as well as the AI that's on your team. My biggest complaint for the last two NHL games have been the teammate AI representations. They just don't think very hockey-like and react to the moves that I make. More goalie animations, desperation saves, stuff like that. Should be a lot of fun with NHL 21. A little bit more on the sports side of news, but this one's a little bit more fun, moving into one of our favorite games, Animal Crossing. Believe it or not, remember how about 2 weeks ago I had made a small tiny comment that perhaps maybe people might be getting a little bit bored with Animal Crossing? Well, folks, it's true. To the point where we are seeing new fun stories coming out and how people are innovatively using Animal Crossing for entertaining ideas to come up with new ways to play the game. Right here, you see people playing football or rugby with Animal Crossing. Obviously, there's no opportunity to interact in that intricate of a way with like the soccer balls or the footballs that are in game. However, as you can see here, one man wears a football helmet and just gets pushed around by his other teammates. So that's been kind of fun. Other news in Animal Crossing is that there are museums that are lending art images to Animal Crossing so you can have them inside of your house and show them off to your friends. In fact, in particular, the San Antonio Museum of Art has imported works and uploaded them to Nintendo to allow them to use their artworks that they have on display in their museums for people to buy and own and possess and show off in Animal Crossing. Not only that, Ikea now has an entire line based off of Animal Crossing. I believe this is just in Taiwan. However, this is a whole catalog that you can look at that utilizes Animal Crossing and the art style behind Animal Crossing to inspire different pieces of furniture and utilize from a marketing standpoint in their magazines. So this game is all over the place. I'm telling you, it's worldwide, and the fact that it's just continually getting bigger and bigger every time I think it's got the opportunity to start to fade away. Animal Crossing continued to blows my mind, and I'm very glad to be on that wavelength. In fact, I'll be selling my turnips later tonight. New game announcements here. We're going to go through some games that I have found to be pretty intriguing and my research team have found to be pretty intriguing with some interesting stories behind them. So let's go ahead and jump into the first one. This is one that a lot of you I'm sure have heard about already and have already looked into yourselves, but I just want to talk a little bit about Gotham Knights. Gotham Knights stars 4 heroes as opposed to the traditional one. The real shocker was that Batman's not one of them. At the beginning of the game's trailer, we're privy to a message distributed and broadcasted by Bruce Wayne. As this message progresses, we're introduced to the recipients of the message, which are Nightwing, Robin, Batgirl, and Red Hood. As quickly as we find out who the heroes are, we just as quickly find out that Batman, Bruce Wayne, is dead. Spoilers. Sorry for that. If you haven't seen the trailer yet, we'll definitely link it in the description down below. But yeah, in this one, we find out real quick that Batman's dead. And he's left the entire idea of protecting Gotham City to these 4, not new, but newfound heroes. The game's playable as solo or with 2 players. Now, the 2-player co-op is online only, so no couch co-op. We get to our choice of the 4 different characters, which have 4 different and unique fighting styles that you get to progress throughout the game. We also get to face villains in the game that are traditional, like Mr. Freeze, or a little bit more obscure from Batman lore, like the Court of Owls. I recommend looking into the Court of Owls yourself if you're not familiar. It's a really, really interesting story about a crime syndicate in Gotham lore that's as old as Gotham itself. But if you're interested in this new Batman iteration, I highly recommend looking into it. I'm a little intrigued by this one, and I'm not sure if anybody else out there has heard about this one or not, but Orwell's Animal Farm. This is something I've never thought about before. This is something I've never conceived before, nor had I had any interest in knowing that I wanted to play it. And yet here we are, hours of research into a video game that I probably will buy. Animal Farm is going to be for PC and Switch, I believe. Yeah, I'm not kidding, Kankosaurus. Animal Farm, the book, is going to be a game. Let's talk about that. Animal Farm is getting a game from Reign's developer, Nariel, coming to Steam this autumn. It's produced in tandem with the Orwell estates, so the family of George Orwell did have input on how the game is going to be displayed. You have to go through the game deciding which animals to side with in a society as it threatens to collapse upon itself, right? Just like the book, you got to essentially prevent the farm from crumbling into totalitarianism. And I was very afraid I wasn't going to be able to say that word live on the internet. It's going to be a management type game as well, where you're going to have survival type elements as far as like balancing resources, protecting the farm from intruders, keeping the animal population in general happy. Inevitably, the question is this just going to end like the book does? Is this going to be a game where you're geared towards decisions where the ending doesn't matter and eventually you'll just end up in a dictatorial rule? Dictatorial rule? Is it just that inevitable spiral towards the end of the book, or will there be options that you get to make that truly do influence the end of the gameplay? That's really the ultimate question that I had for this. Interesting, societally based, political animal game. I don't know how else to put that. So that comes out, fall of 2020. Definitely be on the lookout for Animal Farm. Animal Farm is not the only game we're talking about that's coming out and new, though. The Red Lantern is a very unique game that I'm super excited to tell you guys about. Red Lantern is a resource management narrative type game where you and your team of 5 sled dogs survive the wilderness and just try to find your way home. You play as the Musher, which is voiced by Horizon Zero Dawn actress Ashley Birch. She sets out to build her dog team and a new life around the Iditarod race. If you watch the trailer, so spoilers ahead, but if you watch the trailer, you'll see that during the race at one point, you have a rough encounter with a bear. And there's no soft way to put that. It is pretty graphic, and then after this attack, that's kind of the pinnacle of the game to where you launch into the survival mode, and now you have to survive and find your way home through the Alaskan tundra, which in itself sounds like it's going to be an incredible visual display, especially with the unique type of art that this game offers up. Honestly, the trailers and everything look really, really gorgeous. The art style is quite unique. It's been noted in a lot of different reviews and some of the articles that I read that it is a bit heavy on the violence side, but it really utilizes this unique look and the artistic gore to convey a very intimate, realistic survival emotion and really get you involved in the game. So I'm super excited to see where this heads, where this goes, and what happens within the game. Yeah, just the art style and the idea of the game for me seems super unique, so I'm pretty pumped to play it, and I hope you guys are too. There has been a little bit of a shakeup in the gaming industry lately with this next game that's coming up called Genshin Impact. Take a look at this image. Before I say anything, just breathe it in, look at it kind of in depth, and ask yourself what this may remind you of. The text font, the imagery of the water and the hillsides. Anybody get reminded of any video game when you're looking at this? Well, developers of this game have mentioned that not only have they taken inspiration from companies like Bethesda and Naughty Dog, games like Grand Theft Auto with the open world idea, but they've also been taking some direct inspiration from Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, inspiration's fine, but this Breath of the Wild inspired RPG, which is coming out September 28th on PC, releasing for PS4 later this year, is an anime style game with some Breath of the Wild mechanics for fighting as well as for the stamina. Now, again, I say that with still the vein of inspiration behind it. Now, again, it is a beautiful open world game, but a lot of people feel that Genshin Impact reflects really poorly on the Chinese game industry specifically. Miyoho, I believe is the name of the developer, says that it's, again, inspired by Breath of the Wild and other open world games, but vehemently refutes that it plagiarizes Nintendo at all, or Zelda for that matter. However, many people who got to see this game at the China Joy convention really disagreed with that statement. One fan publicly pulled out his Sony PlayStation and smashed the PS4 on the ground in protest of how disgusted he was. Let me get the quote here. Disgusted it was, and how he felt it was shameless of Sony to promote a game with so many similarities to a different game, specifically referring Breath of the Wild. There was lots of images from the convention of fans obviously flipping the bird towards the stands, obviously not happy about it. So if you guys want to give me your opinion and tell me what you think, please feel free to check out the trailer. That trailer's link will also be in the description down below. So check it out and comment down there and see. Let me know what you think, if it's just another ripoff or if it's a sincere attempt to make a unique game. I'd love to hear your opinions. Updating on some of the games that we've talked about before, Ghost of Tsushima. This game has been incredibly popular lately, primarily for its difficulty. I've been insanely excited to try it. I balk at buying games like this simply because of the difficulty level. Y'all have seen me play Witcher 3. I struggle with games like this, but some of them I really enjoy, so I'm super excited to try this. I'm a long way behind, though, because Ghost of Tsushima is already adding new implementations to the game. Primarily, or I guess I should say, one that I'm going to highlight right now is a new co-op mode. They're calling it Legends. This fall, you'll get a cooperative multiplayer mode that features new stories, a horde mode, you're going to have 4-player raid opportunities, and so much more, including a little bit more of like a fantasy, mythical type setting that kind of counteracts the single-player realism storyline. The coolest part about this entire update, though, is it's going to be completely free. No DLC payments or pre-orders or anything like that. You just get to download more content. You play as the legends from the stories you hear from the people in Tsushima. This is going to be almost a separate game from Ghost of Tsushima, but in the same timeline, in the same events. It'll be interesting to see how many the reactions from the people playing this new DLC compared to the original game and see what the differences are. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles has come out with more updates for us. If you haven't seen it, I will link the previous Thumb on the Pulse where I talk about my disappointment in the new Crystal Chronicles title, mostly in the multiplayer aspects. They've made a new announcement in the multiplayer. Not only will you not be able to play in-home with your friends or family, but you also won't be able to play with your friends in the same country as you. If your country is big enough to be divided up into regions, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remaster servers will be region-locked. How dare you, Crystal Chronicles? How dare you? This game was so pure in its multiplayer facets, and you have torn them to shreds. I am so sad about this one. We reported on Last of Us 2 last week. This week, we got a little bit more news. Permadeath added the opportunity to play the game with only one life, and then the grounded difficulty was the difficulty that eliminated being able to hear through walls, eliminated a significant portion of the loot that you're able to grab. What people didn't realize when it was released, and have now found out since people, of course, have beaten the game on these new settings, that with the grounded difficulty, if you play that difficulty all the way through the end and finish and beat the game, you get the opportunity to hear Joel sing Future Days by Pearl Jam in its entirety. But you get to hear the whole performance, which is kind of neat. A nice little homage to Joel. Also, other fans found out that if you finish the game on the permadeath setting, regardless of what difficulty setting you put it on, you get to hear Through the Valley performed in completion by Ellie. So that's another fun thing that people didn't even realize they got with the new settings that came with that most recent Last of Us 2 update. Just fun little Easter eggs that great companies put in to reward fans for playing their game over and over. I like it. I like it a lot. Rumors and leaked information. We'll see. We only have a little bit this week, but we'll hopefully get some more on us next week. As usual, we love reporting on our company Nintendo, our favorites, an oldie but a goodie. Nintendo has apparently been releasing little bits of information to give people ideas of when they're going to release little bits of information. So it's been a fun little tease from our friends from Japan. And yet, here we are with more leaked news. The rumor is that Nintendo will have another Nintendo Direct this month, August 28th. I've also heard reports that it could be the first week of September. This is still up in the air. However, we do know that at some point within the next week or two, we will have another Nintendo Direct segment to watch. I can't report on whether it's only going to be another 25 to 30 minute segment like the indie game one. I'm hoping we get a lot more information on future releases, actual Nintendo titles, maybe even some ideas on hardware in the future. I'm not sure, but definitely excited for the next Nintendo Direct. I would estimate before September 8th. Between August 28th and September 8th, that's my guess. Don't hold me to it. Last news, and y'all know that I think this might be a theme from now on, but the last bit of news today is about Apex. Apex Legends, and specifically, rumors about leaked information about a Halloween update. We have the opportunity for a Halloween update coming up, hopefully within the next month or so. The rumor is that it's going to be included in Season 7's update, which I would imagine will happen a little bit closer towards the end of September, if not mid-October. The traditional season length for Apex is approximately 90 days or 13 weeks. So we'll see how long this one's going to last in order to get us a Halloween update. There is information on Apex's website or EA's website that has the Halloween information up there, but we couldn't exactly decide if this was last year's Halloween event or for this year's Halloween event. However, it has been announced that there will be a second Halloween event this year. We had the Fight or Fright collection last year. That introduced us to a host of ghoulish goodies. This included Halloween-themed characters, weapons, and skins. In addition, we had a limited time event last year. This was called Shadowfall. Shadowfall was an event that took place on Kings Canyon map, and instead of being during the daytime, it was at night, and everything was only lit by moonlight and candles that were spread out all over the map, which sounds cool as shit. The mode also was a 35 solo players in a deathmatch mode. The cool part about this is, aside from being separated from the Battle Royale mode and being a solo like deathmatch mode, it also allowed players that were killed during the deathmatch to come back as zombies and continue to try to kill everybody so nobody was left alive at the end of the game. I'm excited to see what Apex comes out with this update. Season 7 already looks to be exciting with the implementations that they put in the game with Season 6, so I can't wait to see what comes out with the Halloween update in Season 7. But ladies and gentlemen, that does bring us to the end of our Thumb on the Pulse episode. As always, I sincerely appreciate everybody that showed up. I'm sorry I didn't pay as much attention to chat this time as I did last time, but honestly, I was on a bit of a time constraint and wanted to make sure that I got all the information that I wanted to talk about out and on the table. Last week, I forgot important things like Halo Infinite being pushed back and other last-minute news that got put in at the very last second. So I hope you guys enjoyed this week's Thumb on the Pulse. Like, comment, and subscribe when you check out the YouTube video. Please feel free to comment on anything we talked about today. I'd love to know your guys' opinion. But with that being said, my name's Thumb Spasm, and I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. Sayonara!